Monday night matchup. No big deal here. Draymond Green. Middle of the third quarter, Warriors find themselves trailing 71-66 after a Draymond turnover. Take a look at Steve Kerr and Draymond getting into it. Heated argument during a timeout. Green would actually get up and leave the bench and miss the final 20 minutes of.
Draymond Green just had another full-blown meltdown, and this one was loud, public, and impossible to ignore. A heated shouting match with Steve Kerr spilled out on the sideline, raised voices, wild body language, before Draymond stormed straight to the locker room, a scene Warriors fans have seen far too many times. Yet somehow we're still expected to treat this as just another chapter in championship culture. The problem is, Golden State isn't dominating anyone right now. They're sitting around 500, not feared, not imposing, just stuck in the middle. That's where the frustration really shows. This wasn't a one-off emotional slip, it's a pattern. The tension is building, patience is wearing thin, and questions about Draymond's future in Golden State are getting louder with every game. The Warriors can't keep pretending this behavior isn't an issue forever. At some point, reality has to kick in. How many sideline blow-ups does Draymond get before the front office stops looking the other way and actually does something about it? Where you can direct a voice, create realistic dialogue, and so much more. Edit these placeholders to get started. Drop your take in the comments and hit subscribe because this drama isn't slowing down anytime soon. Now, let's set the scene. The Warriors beat the Orlando Magic 120-97, and on paper, it looks like a clean, comfortable win. But that score is misleading because the real story had nothing to do with shots falling or defensive stops. Midway through the third quarter, Draymond Green and Steve Kerr got into a heated exchange on the bench, and it was obvious right away that this wasn't a quick disagreement. Faces were tight, arms were flying, and the words were clear even without microphones. Draymond eventually stormed off to the locker room to cool down before returning to the bench, but that's where the moment really turned. He never checked back into the game after the 8-minute mark of the third quarter. Steve Kerr benched him for the rest of the night, sending a loud, unmistakable message. And what happened after that only made the situation even more wild.
Down 5, step back over Banchero. Nasty.
Rain!
Warriors down 2. Later in the third, Warriors up 2. Gary Payton the second to Curry.
I mean, he's like 20
shimmy
feet.
shake, shimmy shake.
20 feet
Wet,
closer than
baby.
he normally is.
Just over 3 minutes to go in the third. Warriors now up 1. Banchero with the turnover. Curry, Payton.
The Warriors then went on a stunning 41-8 run with Draymond Green glued to the bench. And that's not just background noise, it's a warning sign. Let that sink in, because this is where the familiar excuses start flying. People rush to say this is just another normal day for Draymond and Steve Kerr, two competitors who've won championships together and have always yelled at each other out of passion. But that explanation is wearing thin. When the same thing keeps happening, it stops looking like competitive fire and starts looking like a pattern. And patterns usually reveal truths teams don't want to confront. So let's break down what actually happened. Steve Kerr called a timeout because the Warriors had lost focus, which is completely reasonable and part of his job. But during that timeout, whatever was said between him and Draymond didn't just stay intense, it escalated. Voices were raised, emotions boiled over, and then came the moment that really matters. Draymond wasn't sent to the locker room. He walked off on his own. That distinction is important. It suggests Draymond felt the situation was spiraling and chose to remove himself before it turned into something even uglier.
I don't think I have any other choice in the matter with what happened last night. The Warriors were trying to win their second game in a row. They were playing a team that has really been disappointed in my mind, the Orlando Magic. The Warriors were 2 games under. Forget Butler and Curry and Green and Kerr, and they've been together forever, and Butler was supposed to add some gravitas and a third option. The reality here is that during the game, Draymond Green and Steve Kerr got into it. The video shows that Kerr was leaning into the huddle, and you see him focused on Draymond solely. He's sitting next to Curry on his left, Moody on his right, but he's focused on Draymond. Draymond puts his head in his towel, getting yelled at, and then all of a sudden, he stands up.
That wasn't discipline. It was self-control mixed with frustration. After the game, Steve Kerr kept things clean and diplomatic, speaking like a coach trying to keep a lid on boiling tension. He said they had it out, Draymond went to cool off, and that was all he offered. Everything stays internal, nothing to see here. Classic coach talk meant to prevent locker room issues from turning into a media circus. But one detail mattered more than the rest. Kerr didn't hesitate to make it clear that Draymond was not going back into the game. Whether he left on his own or was told to stay back didn't matter. The decision was final. His night was over. Then Draymond spoke, and his words revealed more than he probably intended. He admitted his temper got the best of him, called it an emotional game, and said stepping away felt like the right move because things weren't going to improve in that moment. Then he added a telling line, saying that being around people for a long time creates a comfort level where this kind of stuff happens.
Why did you leave the bench?
Temper spilled over, and I just thought it was best that I get out of there. I don't think there was a situation where it was going to get better. So it was just best to remove myself, that's it.
What caused the argument?
Basketball, it's what we do. We play basketball, it's an emotional game. People lose their emotions sometimes, it happens, it is what it is. We've been at this now for a long time, So, sometimes you with people for a long time, there's a level of comfort and shit.
The ejection against the Memphis Grizzlies after going at Colin Gillespie, the non-stop technical fouls, and the constant emotional volatility that never truly cools off are all part of the same pattern. At some point, competitive fire stops being inspiring and starts becoming expensive. So let's talk basketball, not vibes, because numbers don't care about legacy. Heading into that game, Draymond Green was leading the entire league in turnover percentage. Not near the top, but number 1. Let that sink in. And the moment he left the floor, the Warriors took off like a different team. The offense opened up, the ball started popping, and shots began falling. Stephen Curry went a perfect 6 for 6 in the third quarter after Draymond exited. Now pause, because that doesn't automatically mean Draymond is suddenly a net negative. That conclusion would be too easy and too lazy. His defensive impact is still very real. Golden State ranks near the top of the league defensively, 3rd in defensive rating, 4th in steals, and 8th in assists. And a lot of that stems directly from Draymond's voice, positioning, and basketball IQ. He does the things that never show up in the box score, and that matters. But here's the uncomfortable truth nobody likes to say out loud. At some point, the negatives start creeping past the positives.
Third quarter before he went to the locker room.
Yeah, we got into it obviously, and I took the time out just because I thought we lost our focus there a little bit, and so we had it out a little bit, and he made his decision to go back to the locker room to cool off, and that's all I'm going to say about it. It's everything is private, and I got nothing.
When your turnover rate is sky high and your team goes on a massive run without you, those intangibles become much harder to defend. When you're blowing up on the sideline at your own coach in the middle of a game, the chemistry you're supposed to provide starts to look unstable. And that brings us to the core issue, the relationship between Draymond Green and Steve Kerr. It's complicated. These two have shared everything: 4 championships, dynasty-level dominance, historic highs, and injury-filled lows. That kind of history builds trust, but it also builds tension. And right now, that tension is spilling into public view whether the Warriors like it or not. Let's be honest, Steve Kerr has defended Draymond Green more than almost any coach in the league would. From the Jordan Poole incident to the suspension after the stomp on Domantas Sabonis, Kerr consistently stepped in front of the cameras, absorbed the criticism, and protected the locker room. Every time Draymond crossed the line, Kerr offered public support, kept his tone calm, and tried to keep everything internal. But everything has a limit. Watching that sideline exchange, this didn't look like routine frustration. Kerr didn't look mildly annoyed, he looked worn down. That's not anger, that's fatigue, the kind that comes from dealing with the same situation over and over again. Draymond even admitted it himself after the game, saying their arguments never lingered in the past because they kept winning.